So, as you can tell from the title, today we're going to talk a little bit about healing and resiliency. And specifically, I really wanted to share with you today one of the most important key lessons that I've learned in the last couple years that has really helped me on my healing journey. And I'm hoping that as I share with you, that you will find it helpful and be able to use this as a tool and a skill that you can begin to incorporate as you walk through and work through your healing journey. Because one thing that I've learned for sure, and this is not the major topic, but we do have to be intentional about our healing. One of the things that I've recognized, especially in the last couple of years, is that healing doesn't necessarily happen automatically. And it's definitely worth the investment to spend time to work towards healing. But before we get into all that, let me just tell you a little bit about my background. So, my name is Nicole, and I do have a background in healthcare as a family nurse practitioner for many, many years. But more importantly, I'm a human being, and I find myself now in the position where I am working through a process of healing, going through some major transitions in my life, and actually creating and redefining my life going forward. And so, if that's something that you're interested in, please subscribe to this channel because I intend to walk through a journey of healing, restoration, resiliency, and just creating a life that I desire to live and helping you to do the same. But more importantly, I also want to kind of just keep track of my journey and monitor and measure my growth. And so, with this channel, it is one way that I am holding myself accountable to continue the process of growth and also really have an opportunity to look back at where I've come from, where I'm going. And so, definitely, I think will be a beneficial resource for you going forward. Definitely, some things I'd like to share on this process of healing, some major opportunities that are coming up that I'd like to share with you. But let's get into today's topic, which is getting very clear on the things that we control and the things that we don't control. So for me, I really had to spend time getting very, very clear on what I control and what I don't control. So I would recommend you take the time to write or journal or think about specifically some of these things that I'm going to mention because I'm going to list out the things that I really had to accept that I control and the things that I had to come to terms with that I don't control. But one of the things that I guess I learned in retrospect in recognizing the things that I don't control, then I don't have to feel responsible for the outcomes of the things that I don't control. And while it was maybe difficult coming to terms and accepting that, it also helped to relieve me of the burden, and I think it will also relieve you of the burden of carrying unnecessary weight for things that you don't control. So I am going to look down at my notes so that I can stay on track and get through this. But of course, I mean, it may seem basic, but what I have control over is myself. Not you, not what you say in the comments, not what you do with your friends. I control myself. And so I really had to get real with myself that I am the only person that I control. My behaviors. I control my behaviors. I definitely do not control the behaviors of anybody else except for myself. That includes the ones that I love, the ones that have my same last name, the ones that represent me publicly. I do not control their behaviors. I have control over my thoughts. And one of the things that I found to be really helpful was beginning to recognize my thought patterns. And I won't really get too deep into thought patterns, but specifically what I'll say is beginning to identify thought patterns that don't serve me. So I get to control how I choose to see a situation. As, for example, let's say when things come to an end, it can be very difficult, but I'm choosing to see endings as opportunities for new beginnings, opportunities to explore things that I haven't considered in the past, opportunities to grow into a person that maybe I didn't think I could be. And so those are thoughts that serve me. Feeling sad and down and guilty and depressed, that does not serve me. Actions. I am in control over my actions. How I choose to respond, whether I control myself or conduct myself accordingly in certain situations, that is certainly my choice. And I really can't hold anyone else responsible for my actions. And so I can't say that I felt that that's been a difficult area in my life. I feel that, in fact, I'm probably pretty self-disciplined and exert a large amount of self-control. But sometimes we feel that we can't control ourselves, or that we're out of control. And what I would say is we have to remind ourselves that we are in control of our own actions. I'm in control of my likes and my dislikes. And I have the opportunity to grow that. So there are perhaps things in the past that were on my dislike list, and I have the right to change my mind or to approach it with a different perspective and change my mind and decide that although maybe I haven't liked it in the past, that I'm willing to give it another try. I'm in control of my beliefs and my opinions. And honestly, this has been huge for me. Realizing that certain beliefs that I had were not beneficial to my overall growth and development, in particular in the season that I'm in, as I'm growing and changing and beginning to question certain things that I have believed previously. I realize that my belief system is my choice. I am not forced, and none of us are forced to believe anything. I'm in control over my goals. I am in control over my reactions to emotions and reactions to situations. I have control over my attitude and my choices. So, I'll just give some examples also of things that we don't control. I talked about not controlling other people, weather, natural disasters, disease. We don't control those things. Certainly, we can take certain actions to mitigate them. But going through 2020 as a healthcare provider, I had to recognize that, I wasn't really in control, and I wasn't really in control of the outcome. I'm not in control over my DNA. None of us are. We're born a certain way. We didn't make that choice. I'm not in control of my skin color or the texture of my hair or the fullness of my lips. Those are all things that are genetic. And, I'm grateful for who I am. But those were not choices that I made. We're not in control over the family that we were born in and the people who are our biological relatives. You know, we're not in control over our age. And unfortunately, in our society, women as we age, we're frowned upon, that we would have the audacity to age. But, aging is a gift, and I am grateful. And I wouldn't want anything else, but to be where I am today at this age. Because, what is the alternative? What is the alternative? We don't get to stay young forever. And, I want to enjoy every season of my life to the fullest. So that's my perspective on age. I don't have control over the past. And so there's not much benefit in continuing to revisit the past. It really is not helpful unless, I'm going to learn something from it. But even in this stage, for me, one of the things that I'm learning in this season is that it is the past that has created the person that I am today. So I no longer have regrets in the way that maybe I used to over things that I used to do or things that I've done before, but rather I see them as opportunities that have shaped the person that I am today. And I'm very grateful for the person that I am today. So, you know, we don't have control over time, right? We're each allocated a certain amount of time, certain number of days per week, 24 hours in a day. We don't get to speed it up or slow it down for any reason. And so, very important, at least for me, one of the things that I'm learning is to take advantage of the time that we have today, because nothing is promised. And so, at least one of the things I'm learning is to not put off the things that you desire to do, not put off the things that you enjoy, because we don't know what tomorrow holds. And I think that if we didn't learn anything from 2020, I think we've learned that, right? That we don't know what tomorrow holds, that now is the time that we have to enjoy our life, to accept who we are, to grow and to change, and to be the person that we desire to be. We don't have control over the natural consequences that occur from certain decisions. And that's one thing that we do have to live with. And that doesn't mean that everything is always going to turn out in the way that we desire, but you know, if history has taught us anything, it has taught us that life does go on. Anytime that we find ourselves in a difficult situation, you know, if we're here today, we've been able to overcome that situation. And so therefore, you know, we'll be able to cross that bridge when we come to it. So one of the things that I've been working on personally is focusing on my reactions to fear, because fear, I discovered, was a big issue in my life. But I have been strategically working to change my reactions and not allowing fear to lead me into catastrophizing difficult situations and people who I don't have control over in the first place. So there's really no point in me focusing on how people are going to behave and all of these worst case scenarios that at the end of the day I don't control. So me worrying about it is not beneficial at all. But I will say that what I have found, the benefit of really getting clear on what I have control over and what I don't have control over, is coming to a place where I'm no longer feeling responsible to make other people feel comfortable, right? Because if I know that I don't control how you feel, then I now know that it's not my responsibility to make you feel comfortable. My responsibility is to make me feel comfortable, not to make you feel comfortable. I cannot accommodate your feelings. And not to say that I am here to inflict harm. That's not what we're talking about at all, is inflicting harm. Certainly that's not what we're talking about. But what I'm talking about is being responsible for making you feel comfortable, in particular with who I am, and with how I am, and with me being myself. And if you're uncomfortable with who I am, then that's an indicator that maybe we're just not meant to be around each other, and that is okay. I no longer have to feel responsible to shield others from discomfort or pain. So I think that for me, especially being a caregiver, I somehow began to feel responsible for shielding people from pain and discomfort, because it was a huge part of my role in my job, in my career for many, many years, and even in my personal life. And so once I realized that that is not my responsibility, then I can release myself of that burden. I don't have to feel responsible to take on the work that others are either unwilling or unable to do. That's not my job. I don't have to really be here to do everything in order for things to get done. It will get done, or maybe it won't. But at the end of the day, not my responsibility. I'm learning that I don't have to really be a protector for people. I don't have to feel guilty or ashamed of my past decisions or mistakes. And I am not responsible to spark change or enlightenment in other people. Like, people have the right to see things in the way that they desire to see them. And I'm grateful that I'm beginning to feel that it's no longer my responsibility to enlighten you or make you have a different mindset. I mean, whatever mindset that you want to have is your prerogative. I'm in control over my mindset, and that's it. And so, I can really use these tools to take positive action to move forward and grow and heal. So, thank you so much for staying to the end. If you're willing, why don't you leave me one of the things that you have learned, maybe a valuable lesson that you've learned on this journey of healing that you think might benefit the people here in our community, because I really hope that we will build a community and be resources for each other and be able to grow together and heal together and just provide each other with community as we move forward. So, thank you for joining me. Please remember to like this video, subscribe below if you like this content. That way I can make sure to provide you with additional information on this topic or on topics related to this if that's something that you're interested in. And I will see you next time.